Hello and welcome to the Real Travel Show, where we take you on an exciting journey of fascinating places around the world. Invite your friends. Be my guest on this weekly journey around the world. Discover the food. Oh yes, my friend. The music, arts, culture, and the magical sights and sounds.
Welcome to the Real Travel Show with me, yours truly, Ras Mubarak, and you, my friend, are very welcome. One of the key focus of the Real Travel Show is tourism.
Yes.
And we focus on tourism because post-COVID-19, a lot of economies have taken a hit, and we strongly believe countries around the world could use tourism, whether health tourism, whether cultural or education or trade, to open up and to encourage, people to come in just so that they can bolster their respective economies. You are the 6th largest country in the world. You're also a continent, interestingly. Yes. If one wants to visit Australia, where do you even start?
You're right. Tourism is an important aspect of Australia's economy, and in fact, I would say that tourism is an Australian success story. The 9 million, these are pre-pandemic figures, but I think we're going back to pre-pandemic figures. 9 million tourists a year visit Australia. It contributes about 75% of our services exports, and 1 in 8 businesses in Australia is involved in tourism, so it's a large part of the economy. Where do you start when you go to Australia? It's a country like no other. It's got this unique, incredible... Very diverse. But it's got incredible landscapes, from the red desert at the centre to beaches to luxurious rainforests, and also a very vibrant multicultural society. And of course, we're very proud of our Indigenous community there. They represent a very old civilization. They've been working the land in Australia a long time before a European settlement, 65,000 years. So it's the oldest living civilization. So you get a sense of that when you're in Australia. So where do you start? It's such an embarrassment of riches. Obviously, you would probably, as a tourist, end up in Sydney or Melbourne. And they're fantastic cities. Just recently, there was an index of the most livable cities. And in fact, we posted the results on Facebook. The most livable cities in the world. This was the Economist index. And out of the 20 top cities, there were 5 Australian cities. So that's pretty
impressive.
That's pretty impressive. And the criteria were about ease of getting around, access to services, clean air, safety, obviously. So you would start with Sydney or Melbourne, and I'm going to make a plug for Canberra, which is a smaller, but it is the capital, and I'm from Canberra, and I think Canberra is a unique city.
Okay.
We call it the bush capital, and it's very, very planned.
Why is it called the bush capital?
Because it's not on the coast, and you get a sense of being in the bush. You can see the mountains, and right through the city there's the bush, the greenery. You can see kangaroos around the city.
Okay.
You're very close to nature, and of course there's a big lake in the middle. So it's very modern, very planned, and very unique. So I'm making a plug for Canberra, but it's got all the national institutions and museums. So Melbourne and Sydney tend to attract most of the tourists.
Okay.
And with good reason. Sydney Harbour, the Sydney Opera House are world famous, and the Sydney Harbour is just incredible. It's got to be one of the most beautiful harbour in the world. But then, if you've got the time, you would want to go inland, perhaps away from some of the beaches. And if you've got the time, you go to what we call the centre, the red centre of Australia.
Okay.
Now that's a long trip because it's if you drove, it would probably take you 5 days. You'd stop overnight, and but the distances are enormous, and that in itself is fascinating.
Yeah.
To drive down a road and you see a sign that says next petrol station 400 kilometres.
Whoa.
It's a little bit scary, right?
400 kilometers.
Yes, well, next village 400 kilometres, and you know that if you turn off, there's nothing, and it's that sense of distance and being able to see the horizon for as far as the eye can see, which is just extraordinary. And your destination in the centre of Australia would probably be Uluru. It's a very iconic, sacred, monolithic rock in the middle of Australia.
Okay.
And it's very, very sacred for our indigenous population.
Okay.
So that would be if you've got the time to do that. But there's also, of course, the Great Barrier Reef, the largest ecosystem in the world. So you'd be going up north from Sydney. You would need to fly again because of the distances, but that's also one of the great tourist destinations.
Okay. Fascinating. Finally, what's this cockroach festival about?
All right, the Cockroach Festival. So it's held annually, and it is a cockroach race, basically. So Australians like a race, a good race, and what they do is they bring their thoroughbred cockroach. They can bring it from their home.
Breed them?
They can bring them, or they can buy one.
Okay.
And so it's a steeple race. So the cockroaches
only in Australia.
Only in Australia. The cockroaches have to jump over little fences.
Okay.
And basically, the cockroach that wins gets immortalised in a cockroach hall of fame, and there's a sort of queen of the cockroach, Miss Cocky race. You can have the cockroaches in little colours like jockeys, and they're immediately disqualified if they fly.
Blimey.
Yes, so it's very serious, and if also they have silly names.
Where did you come up with the idea?
Oh, look, it's a very Australian thing. Australians are always up for a good laugh, and as I said, they're also very sporting. So they like a race, so they like racing things, animals.
Fascinating.
Our most famous race, of course, is the Melbourne Cup horse race in November, and we have an event for that here in the High Commission. That's a proper race with real thoroughbreds, not cockroaches.
Fascinating stuff about cockroaches. Let's talk about cuisine.
Hello and welcome to the Real Travel Show, where we take you on an exciting journey of fascinating places around the world. Invite your friends. Be my guest on this weekly journey around the world. Discover the food. Oh yes, my friend. The music, arts, culture, and the magical sights and sounds.
Welcome to the Real Travel Show with me, yours truly, Ras Mubarak, and you, my friend, are very welcome.
We gain altitude and take an unlimited look at Africa. This is an ideal way for us to bring together our people, our cultures, by erasing borders to promote bilateral cooperation, tourism, and business. By extending our wings across the African sky, we embark you and transport you in one day on our network, the quality of services, the reliability of our flight program, and our professionalism are values that define us. We are Sky, the Pan-African airline.
Let's talk about cuisine.
Yeah, something more appetizing, perhaps.
We don't want to, put people off. But interestingly, obviously, there are people who eat some of these things. But for cuisines in Australia, a country that's so diverse and rich culturally, do you have a national dish, for instance?
No, so we have many national dishes. So our cuisine speaks to our history, our geography, and a very diverse population.
Okay.
So what we've done, I think, over the years is cherry-picked and made the most of all the different cuisines of the world, because the world has come to Australia, basically. And as a result, Australia's got deep cultural and family ties with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in our cuisine.
Okay.
And where Australian cuisine is very special is that we've managed to combine a sort of bush type food and our own meats like crocodile, emu, kangaroo. Yes, we eat kangaroo meat. With
oh, you do?
Yes,
Kangaroo
yes,
meat?
yes. It's good. It's very lean. It's like venison. With Asian cuisine and also the cooking styles of our most recent migrants. So it's an incredible melting pot, a mix, literally a melting pot. And the other thing is, because you rightly pointed out that Australia is a continent, it's got all these different climates. So that means you can grow and produce anything you can think of in Australia, and the produce is a very high standard. And as I said, because we've got a very multicultural population, practically everything's on the menu. So really, whatever takes your fancy, you can find in Australia. But I want to underscore that the quality of the produce is extraordinary. We have the best beef in the world. So the beef the cattle have room to graze, and they're fed on grain. So it produces extraordinary beef like Angus beef, or the marbled fatty Wagyu beef that are well known. Of course, we've already talked about lamb. We've got incredible seafood as well. I haven't even mentioned, and I should, the Australian wine. It is so good. Australian wine, there's 60 wine regions in Australia.
Okay.
So Australia's up there as one of the big wine producing.
Capitals.
So
I didn't know this.
Yep. So you must absolutely, if you go to Australia, do wine tasting. And we have a very big coffee culture as well. We take our coffee extremely seriously.
Okay. Do you grow them, or you bring them from South America or Ethiopia?
A bit of both.
Okay.
A bit of both. But we've come up with something called a flat white, which is a special way of doing coffee. But people will. They won't settle for the instant stuff, not in Australia. And the other nice aspect of dining out in Australia, it reflects a very relaxed lifestyle. Okay. So we don't really tend to go for very formal, starched tablecloths, lots of cutlery and obsequious service. We make the most of our surroundings, and we relax and enjoy this beautiful food in a lovely setting. And for us, that should speak for itself. So it's not pretentious, but it's very, very good quality. I really think if you're a gourmet, you'll be very happy in Australia for all the reasons outlined.
And what's the best time to visit?
It depends which part of Australia you're going to. So at the moment, my home city, Canberra, it's quite cold. In fact, there was a bit of a cold snap last week. It was -5 in the morning. Then the sun comes out and it warms up to about 10 degrees. So don't forget,
that's still pretty cold. By Ghanaian standards.
So it's the southern hemisphere. So summer in Europe corresponds to winter. Winter in Australia, but there are temperate areas where it's pleasant all year round, and then in the far north it's quite tropical. And people don't often realise that there's more snow to be found in the mountains in Australia than in the Swiss Alps.
That's incredible.
Yes, that's right. Again, you've got to think of this as Australia is a continent with a great deal of variety
Absolutely.
of landscapes.
Absolutely.
So in winter you can go skiing not far from Canberra. And you can go cross-country skiing for miles and miles.
Okay.
Because there's so much snow.
Okay.
And of course the beach culture
yes,
is famous.
The beach culture.
We haven't
Absolutely.
talked about surfing.
Yeah.
But that's something that you could have a day at the office in Sydney and then go surfing on Bondi Beach in the evening. It's a big part of our culture.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to on the Real Travel Show, and we'll try to make the most of it once we get to visit Australia in August. High Commissioner, I want to thank you very much indeed for opening our eyes to the Australian continent, and we're looking forward to visiting. And the very best of luck to you. There's quite a lot of work you're doing. It's been very difficult getting here to sit down to do the interview, and that is understood because of the enormity of task, having to combine several countries. I didn't even know you had, mandates on 8 other countries aside Ghana.
Yes, it's quite
until
a
I
big
started
patch.
reading up about what you're doing. So it's quite fascinating. I wish you the very best of luck. And we do hope that you get to find some free time to also enjoy the sights and sounds from all of these beautiful West African countries.
Absolutely, I fully intend to do that. I hope I managed to whet your appetite a little bit for Australia and everything that you can find there.
Absolutely.
And if you want to follow up with us after your visit, we'd be very happy to.
Absolutely.
Discuss what your impressions were, or if you find an area you want to pursue, particularly on the trade and investment side, perhaps we can talk again.
Particularly on farming, and I'm passionate about it. I'm a farmer myself.
Yes.
I was into cattle farming, but unsuccessfully, probably because I wasn't doing it right.
Well,
so Australia might be, one place one can glean into exactly what people are doing and how they are.
Some of the
getting it
cattle
right.
farms are so big; they're the size of a small country.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do hope that we can get to visit a farm, see how things are produced in these wonderful places, and let's see if we could replicate, some of the best practices. It's all about, copying
And learning from
and
each
learning
other.
from each
Yes,
other.
I agree.
So we're looking forward to picking a thing or two and sharing with the rest of West Africa. I want to thank you for watching the Real Travel Show, which was brought to you kind courtesy Bell's Lounge in Eastwood City, Philippines, and of course Askai Airlines, the Pan-African Airlines. Until the next destination, we certainly would be in Canberra, Sydney, or Perth. I want to thank you for coming with us on this journey. Keep watching the Real Travel Show.
Hello and welcome to the Real Travel Show, where we take you on an exciting journey of fascinating places around the world. Invite your friends. Be my guest on this weekly journey around the world. Discover the food. Oh yes, my friend. The music, arts, culture, and the magical sights and sounds.
Welcome to the Real Travel Show with me, yours truly, Ras Mubarak, and you, my friend, are very welcome.
We gain altitude and take an unlimited look at Africa. This is an ideal way for us to bring together our people, our cultures, by erasing borders to promote bilateral cooperation, tourism, and business. By extending our wings across the African sky, we embark you and transport you in one day on our network, the quality of services, the reliability of our flight program, and our professionalism are values that define us. We are Askai, the Pan-African Airline.